All right, everybody, here at the DC booth, live from San Diego Comic-Con with one Mr. Mark Waid. Mark, it's always great to see you again.
Good to see you, sir.
Big news, DC news that came out. The panel dropped a lot of stuff about DC, KO, really exciting. It's really the continuation of kind of where we are with the DC Universe with the Absolute Power events and what happened with Darkseid and what have you. So obviously, Scott and Josh Williamson, Scott Snyder and Josh Williamson are kind of the architects of it. But I mean, the stories that you're doing in Justice League are hugely involved in Action Comics and what have you. So I mean, you guys just seem to really vibe, and it's just a great time to be.
We've all known each other for a long time, and I respect those guys enormously, and there's a mutual respect there. So we just like feeding off each other's ideas, and that's how you get the best stories. Is that you get great stories if somebody wants to sit in a chair and do it all by themselves. You can get great stories, but to me, because comics is a collaborative medium at heart anyway, the best stuff you get is when you're just kind of playing can you top this with the other writer.
So we're going to see plenty of fallout from DC KO in the pages of Justice League Unlimited, things crossing over, that tight continuity.
Right. Well, somebody's got to account for the villains. I mean, the superheroes are busy punching each other. You know, the villains look at the world as open season, so Mr. Terrific has got to put together a team that he calls the Terrific 10. I mean, I don't know that he calls them that, but we'll call them that. And it's the sort of the time remnant characters that have been bouncing around that haven't been returned back yet, like Batman Beyond or Electric Blue Superman in his speed skater costume, which we said during the panel yesterday, and I can't believe people applauded. We've gotten to a point where Electric Blue Superman is now a fan favorite somehow, and characters like that. So they are the characters, but they're also not really the characters. They're sort of, because of all the time shenanigans, they're sort of time remnants of these characters. So this is Batman Beyond, but he's actually expendable. Like, if you take him out, he's sort of a temporal shadow, if you will, like I said, so it's not going to affect the timeline. But one of those characters in the 10 is real. And if they get taken out, then everything, the time stream just goes belly up. And I'm not telling you which one it is, and Mr. Terrific is not telling them which one it is, and so it's going to be a big mystery.
Well, Mr. Terrific is definitely having a moment right now.
He had the big wow moment in Superman. He had the big wow moment.
It's great to see. He's always been one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, me too.
How much fun is it writing? And we had a moment just recently, we covered it on our weekly spotlight, where he's working with himself, and the thing of, emotions, if he's too close to something, it actually hurts his ability to think. How much fun was it writing him from those two different perspectives?
It's great. It was so much fun because on the one perspective, he's worried about Airwave. He's got to solve the problem. But he has a personal connection with Airwave. But the past Mr. Terrific has no personal connection whatsoever. So to him, it's like, slicing Gordian's knot. He's got it. But before he can say anything, poof, he vanishes. And now the current Mr. Terrific is like, I have to find a way to put my emotions aside and solve this problem. And it's hard for him. It's harder for him than it was a few years ago because he's just gotten to know these characters and become closer to them than at the beginning of his career.
Yeah, and that's something that you and I have talked about before, specifically for your Justice League Unlimited series, is having that action, having those superhero moments, but grounding them with character moments so that we care.
That's all I care about. I mean, that's all you care about. That's all the readers care about. I mean, plot is great, plot is important, but plot's just a structure. At the end of the day, nobody remembers the plot of something detail by detail, but what they will remember is the big emotional moments that really got them. And so, like, again, Batman and Robin Year One is the best example of this. Like, to Chris Samnee and I both, Batman and Robin doing stuff together is fun, but the real fun of the book to us is Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson and their moments together. And that's all emotion. And so that's the joy of it to me. I know these characters better than I know my own family. So I hear their voices, I know what they all sound like, I know what motivates them, and so it is just so much fun to put them together and be able to do it in a way where hopefully the reader goes, I never thought about that with this character before.
Yeah, again, Mr. Perfect example, because early on in the series he's so cerebral, and then obviously we saw what happened recently. We're trying to solve the airwave problem, we'll call it. But you mentioned Batman and Robin Year One. There's a big. I thought it was unexpected. I mean, we know Two-Face was in the book,
right?
Didn't necessarily see him as the big bad,
right?
But then with what happened with him and Clayface at the end of last issue, that threw me for a loop, and I'm like, oh, wait a second.
It was staring you right in the face the whole time. It's a double cross.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
But it's you and Samnee vibing. Again, talk about vibing with characters.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's Chris's dream job. Batman and Robin Year One is Chris's dream job, and so it shows on every page. And it is so much fun to work with him on this because he is so invested and he loves this so much.
Well, one of the other things about it, and this is also the case with your Action Comics. So we talked about Justice League Unlimited. That's set in the current tight continuity. Then you're playing in the past, Batman and Robin Year One. You're also playing in the past in the pages of Action Comics.
Yeah.
It's the Kent family, figuring out how he gets to be Superman.
Right. I mean, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, the basic concept of the book is that it's Clark. He just turned 15, and they have promised him, the Kents have promised him, on your 16th birthday, you get to become Superboy. You can wear the costume, you can do the stuff. But until then, no, because there's still so much for us to figure out. They haven't figured out the glasses yet. They haven't figured out the costume. He doesn't have all his powers yet. Even the ones he has are not completely under his control. And so, as Pa says to him in the very first issue, he says, look, there are a lot of people going to be asking a lot of questions once you premiere. And we've got to have answers for all of them, and it has to be bulletproof. So, not until you're 16. And then, sure enough, in the first issue, something happens and he has no choice.
Right.
But to debut as Superboy to save lives. And now they're on the run. Basically, the Kents and Clark are desperately trying on the fly to figure out what it means to be Superboy and how the powers work and how the costume works and how the secret identity works and all of this stuff. And the joy of this is that Superman is largely infallible. I mean, if you're writing a Superman story where Superman fails, I think you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But Superboy gets to be fallible. He gets to have arguments with his parents. He gets to be a normal teenager because even Kryptonians have hormones. So that's the joy of it to me, is seeing how he became a hero.
As a writer, from a creative standpoint, is it fun to be able to play in different time periods? Because, in different story structures? Because, again, maybe a little more collaborative to make sure you're fitting in with what's going on with the rest of the DC KO and whatever in Unlimited, as opposed to maybe a little more freedom in the past, but you still can't go back and change everything.
Right.
It's exercising different muscles in a way.
Exactly, it really is. I mean, I really want to always stay balanced, which I always like having a couple of projects that are sort of siloed off, if you will, because World's Finest is at its past continuity.
Right.
So that way I'm not having to worry about what's happening in 4 other books at the same time. But at the same time, I always want projects like Justice League Unlimited or Flash, which I'm coming back to with Chris Cantwell as my co-writer, that are set in the here and now to stay relevant and to play in the DC universe as it stands now. So I always want that balance of work.
Yeah, we'll finish up by talking about your work with, and Chris has been on. Chris is a friend. He's been on the show a bunch of times. So talented. Amazing guy. And you mentioned it yesterday at the panel that, Bart hasn't learned the Flashpoint lesson that
right, exactly.
Right?
Yes,
he wants to go back and try to fix things. And that's fascinating because he may be the most appropriately named hero ever. He is so impulsive.
I am terrible at naming characters. I am awful at it. The only time I ever hit out of the park was with the name Impulse, which describes his power and his personality. And I will never top that. So there you go. But thank you. He's one of my favorite characters. So much fun to write because there is no hesitation in him. He just goes and works completely off instinct. And he's still a hero somehow.
How connected is the Flash book from you and Chris with the DC KO?
Still very connected. Again, they're trying to deal with the dark side of it all. They're trying to deal with, Impulse's ideas, well, why don't we just kill Darkseid in his crib? No, I've done Flashpoint, kid. It didn't go well, but it's by the time you say that, Impulse is already, hurtling back their time, and then it just becomes a big pinball game through time and space to try to fix things and then fix what you just broke and then fix that too. And it's sort of it's like Flashpoint, but a little more fun and a little crazier. So, and all the while we're trying to deal with the threat of Darkseid, and Impulse versus Darkseid is an awesome matchup.
So what was it that made you want to bring Chris on to co-write this book with you?
He's just good. I mean, I very rarely have read the work of a writer who is as accomplished as he is in television, who is still fairly new to comics as a writer, but he gets it. Like, he totally gets it. He understands the medium. He understands the form. He's a good storyteller. I still think Challengers of the Unknown was one of the best things we published last year, and it kills me that more people didn't pick it up. So if you're listening to this, Challengers of the Unknown miniseries, trade paperback, go pick it up. He's good at what he does. He's got a lot of good ideas, and he's just a good collaborator. I think that comes from being in TV, is that he understands it is a collaborative medium. It's not a selfish thing. It's just a constant throwing back and forth of ideas.
Yeah, he's a very cerebral writer, depending on the project when it calls for it. You know, Blue Flame certainly was like that. She Could Fly certainly like that. The thing where I connect you to, it goes back to what we were just talking about, emotion.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
He writes, and this is 100% throughout his entire Challenger series. That was such an emotional series and story for those characters.
That's it. Like I said before, that's all that really matters in the end.
So, with it being Bart and this, impulse control story arc, there's, as you said, a little bit lighter. It's going to be fun times, but I'm sure there's going to be.
Oh, there's darkness too. I mean, it's not wacky. It is just because you've got Wally racing after him, trying to put right things that Impulse is putting wrong, and we will meet some very familiar faces in some very unexpected places, and there will be some real drama to add. Impulse has to learn some lessons. You don't ever want to tell an Impulse story that is completely dark and gritty, because that misses the point of the character.
Right.
But there's room in there for Bart to learn some hard lessons.
Well, I'm looking forward to it for sure, and specifically those character moments, because yes, you've got to have the balance, and he is a fun character, and you'll have the one-liners and what have you. But it's been a while since we've seen him, and there's definitely room for growth.
Yeah,
I think,
not too much growth, but a little bit.
But yeah. We definitely want to see him go on a journey.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Well, it's great catching up to you.
Always a pleasure,
Mark.
sir.
Yeah, great to see you.
Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.